Well, okay, so I'm going to be honest here and in all candor because I think the cat's going to be out of the bag soon.
Joanne, do you realize like how big of a mic drop that is?
Guys, 25 Months is a podcast for creators and aspiring creators, so you all know how important that like and subscribe button is, so please smash it for us.
Welcome back to 25 Months. My name is Tejas Hullur. I'm here with a special co-host today because Jack is he's got his tonsils removed. It's a little rough for him right now. So I called up one of my best friends here, Mr. Dylan Lemay. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
We're here with one of my favorite TikTokers. We're here with Joanne.
I'm so excited to be here with
There
you
we
both.
go. Joanne is at The Korean Vegan on TikTok and Instagram, garnering over 3 million followers across platforms. As her handle suggests, she is vegan, who has reinvented Korean food, which is largely influenced by pork and other meats.
My dad has been working at night since he was a little boy. When he was 9, he'd get up long before dawn, hop into a pickup truck with his father to head into town to sell rice.
Joanne is also starting her own cookbook, and not to mention, she's also a partner at a law firm, and everything I just stated is basically her side hustle. And you two know each other, right, Dylan and Joanne? How did you two meet?
Well, good old TikTok. We followed each other, but it was like more than that. It was like one of those things where you follow somebody and you're like, I love their content, and then it happens to be mutual, and you just become best friends from there.
Really? So the TikTok DM started it all?
Well, I think I'm not very good at TikTok DMing. I'll be very honest. I don't know how to really use that stuff. But I will say that through the comments, actually, Dylan and I became friendly. And then, when you see that there is a genuine heart behind the TikToker, it's very easy to say, you know what, I want to become friends with that guy. So it's basically what happened with Dylan.
I love it. I have a question for both of you before we get into this. What percentage of your current friend base do you think is from content creation?
Oh, man. I would say, like, for me, it's probably 90%.
Yeah, I'm around there.
I would agree.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where people like, all of your friends are from the internet. I'm like,
Yeah.
Trust me, it doesn't sound as weird as it is. I promise. Right? But awesome. Well, I'm excited to get into it. Just a reminder, this podcast is about a fact that we found that says that the average career span of a content creator is around 25 months. And the whole idea of it is to interview other creators, especially that are born in this TikTok realm, to see how we can ensure longevity, assuming you want to be a creator for the rest of your life. Is that so?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess question number one for you, Joanne, is like, when did you start considering yourself to be a creator?
Oh, that's a really good question. I actually just did a post about this on my 1-year anniversary of my first TikTok, where I talked about how I never considered myself to be very artistic or even creative. I always assumed, oh, you're good at math and you're good at spreadsheets and you're good at, logic puzzles, which is why I became a lawyer. And I always attributed creativity to people like my husband, who is a concert pianist. And I'm like, that's creativity.
Yep.
That's art, not me. I started posting on TikTok July of last year. And it was really just kind of like whatever, like, oh, I'm just making some potatoes. Here you go. Like that kind of thing. And it wasn't until I started trying to marry my writing with my photography, with my cooking all together, that my TikTok became what most people associate with my TikTok today.
But I'm here to tell you, you have permission to do what it takes to feel just a little bit better. I know that jobs, school, kids, mortgage payments are knocking on your door, but sometimes the loudest knock of all is the pounding from our own fists. So unclench your hand, rest your arm, sit down, have something to eat, something you like to eat, something that tastes good, reminds you of your grandma, of the screen door from your old house. Then lie down, close your eyes and rest.
It was so jarring to see the the word creator, because that's what you see when you comment on something, you see creator, right? And I was like, well, this is very presumptuous. Like, these people are creators. Like, what does that mean? To me, creator means God. Like, what is that? What does that mean? But eventually you kind of assume the title and you become very proud of it. So I would say about 3 or 4 months after my first TikTok was when I kind of embraced that title.
I love that. What did that first TikTok look like? Because you just alluded to, you didn't really get into the flow of, I want to call yours like storytelling mixed with like going from raw materials to full product, cooking. Before that, what were your like first attempts? Because honestly, at the time, like a year ago, you didn't see anything like what you're making on TikTok right now, right?
Yeah, it was very similar to a lot of other food content, which is just, putting together a dish and trying to frantically explain what I'm doing, whether through the voiceover or while I'm actually on the video. Like, okay, now I'm going to throw the potatoes in, then I'm going to add some kuchgaru, then I'm going to add some kanja, so like that's basically what it was. And trying to do it in a quirky, like funny way, of course, to show my personality. But I found the whole task to be really frantic, like not calm, like extremely chaotic. And I was like, I don't think that I'm actually utilizing these 60 seconds in a way that is impactful. I could probably do something more impactful for this, time period. And that's why I ultimately decided to share some of my writing.
Wow, that's super interesting. Dylan, you have something?
Yeah, I was going to say, were you posting anywhere else before TikTok, or was it just you started at TikTok? Because weren't you on Instagram first?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Dylan. So I started my blog, The Korean Vegan, in 2016, which is when I went vegan. So I've been developing recipes for a long time. And at that time, I started an Instagram, I started a Facebook, a Snapchat, all the things, right? And so I definitely was posting to Instagram for many, many years. But like most Instagrammers, it wasn't video content. It was just static photography. So I'm not a professional photographer. I do not have any real study in photography, but I have been taking food photographs for many, many years before I came on to TikTok. And I definitely think that skill helped me to, again, separate my content from some of the other content that you were seeing.
For sure. So you didn't consider yourself a creator, though, at that time, like 2016 or such? Was it more of just like a hobby?
It was a total hobby. It
Wow.
was like totally like not even like a good hobby. Like I was like, I think I'm like okay at this. And like, it's hard. Like as I'm sure many of you have experienced, and as I'm sure both of you as creators have experienced, there's so much talent out there. The amount of talent that is out there is mind-boggling. And so on Instagram in particular, as a food blogger, I was like, oh, I'm very average. I'm middle of the pack. That's kind of how I viewed myself.
Yep, that's crazy. I think one thing too is a question I have is why did you start off with food? I know, like, I guess this goes into the question like, why are you vegan? And then even on social media, why was like food the first thing you thought of when you wanted to put content out there?
Well, okay, to be totally 100% honest, I have to be very careful here. Everyone has skeletons in their closet. So it wasn't my first foray into social media. My absolute first foray into social media, and I'm not even going to identify the platform, but I started out as a photographer. So I bought a DSLR camera, I think in 2010. And it was my first DSLR, and I was taking pictures of like the freaking staircase and like, like my office, and whatever. And
put the black and white filter on
yes,
there.
Exactly.
Yep, okay.
Exactly. So I was like, oh, I'm a serious photographer. That's what I first started doing. That lasted for like 3 weeks. And then I accidentally fell into the writing community and I started writing a lot of poetry. I actually had several of my poems published as a result of my writing blog, which I had worked on for a couple of years. And so that was my real, social media debut, if you will. When I started the Korean vegan, I did that mostly as a functional tool. I was going vegan and there were no other resources for me to make sure that I could continue eating Korean food. There just really weren't. And so it was either like come up with my own food or start not eating Korean food. And that latter was not acceptable to me. So that's why I started the food blog, because I was like, well, there's clearly a demand. Of one, Joanne. And there's no supply. So I will create the supply.
I love it. I love it. That's so interesting. I mean, I haven't actually looked at the Instagram, but even like I was scrolling back on TikTok, and it's I think as a creator too, we always talk about just like all the little subconscious things that we do in our TikToks that really make it a full package. And like when I watch one of yours, right, it's like I'm like, I'm mindlessly scrolling on my For You page. I get one of your TikToks on there and I'm just like, whoa.
What happens if I never love anyone again? This was the fear I had right after my divorce. It's true, you only get one first love in your life, but you also only get one last love in your life, right?
I think you've mastered so many things, and like this just attributed to you've been a creator for such a long time here. You said 2010 you've gotten a DSLR. I mean, at the end of the day, you've been playing in the attention economy here for quite a bit, and I think a lot of that has come in. You're totally right to what you create today. Speaking of which, then, like, who are some of your influences when it comes to creating, or just maybe in general?
Oh, that's a really good question. So many good questions, gentlemen. From an artistic and aesthetic perspective, there is a woman, her name is Betty, and her handle on Instagram is Stems and Forks. And she is just, to me, one of the most talented food photographers, videographers on social media. And she has had an incredible influence on me in terms of just my vision and my aesthetic. You'll know that, my content tends to be a bit moodier, a bit darker than, the bright light content. Yeah. I don't use ring lights. I don't use artificial lighting at all because I don't really know how to. So that she has had an enormous influence on me, and I aspire to have 1/10 of her skill at some point in my life. And she's all self-taught as well. In terms of just, writing, I'm influenced by not influencer writers. Yeah. So, like the great writers of the great books. I read a lot of literature. I was an English major in college. And then in terms of just being a participant in the attention economy, as you described it, I think people like Dylan, he absolutely influences me because he reminds me to stay focused on the mission and be vision oriented and not to get distracted by things that would take you away from the original objective of your social media.
Wow.
Dang, dude.
That's insane. Thank you.
Oh, no, it's not insane. It's totally logical.
It's true.
No, I haven't told Dylan this yet, but this is actually just Dylan and I have been basically living together for the last 2 months.
Right.
That's so fun.
It's been crazy. And one thing that I just realized very recently, like just to what you just gave Dylan those accolades, was it when we were in Cleveland, Dylan woke up, right? And the first thing he's doing is already making a YouTube video. Like before he's getting out of bed, right? Before anything, like it's crazy how like your mind is wired now, Dylan, to the fact that you're so diligent what you're putting out. And at the end of the day, it's like you're just having fun. And we can all tell, just like that's the first thought in your head. We can argue if that's like mentally okay or not, but that's crazy. It's awesome that you're so focused on it.
One thing that I don't even know if this fits into where we're talking right now, but this is one thing that I think Joanne just does like phenomenally, and this is Tejas' like big point. He always says like the story is like what sells everything. Like everything's about the story. And I think it's one thing that you do so powerfully in your content is that you just know how to tell a story well. And I think that's probably like a culmination of so many of your skills building up to this point that you've been a creator for so long. You're just finally showing your creativity to everyone.
Oh, that's very sweet. That's very kind of you, Dylan. But first, I need to echo exactly what Tejas said. Like, literally, when he was over at our house, he was figuring out ways to maximize everything that we were doing to create content, like every little thing.
No,
and I felt like any opportunity that was wasted, like he would get sad that the opportunity was wasted to create content. And I think that sort of energy is very inspiring.
So inspiring.
But it's also indicative of a work ethic that probably took decades to actually develop. It's a value of his that is separate and apart from content creation. I mean, you can see that in just, his work at the ice creamery, right? As to storytelling, I think everyone's a storyteller. I think we're all natural storytellers. It's just a matter of finding the appropriate medium that connects with other people on a level that also connects with you.
I completely agree. One of my first TikToks when I really started going with storytelling is everything. It's the only reason you're interested in anything, right? But speaking of mediums, I know one thing I always find so interesting, because we've been in TikTok for a couple years, or a year, a little bit more a year than now. Why did you start TikTok, right? Like, what if you know the stigma of it being, 14, 15-year-olds dancing, and then you come in with just these powerful storytelling pieces? I mean, even if that wasn't the objective in the very beginning, why TikTok?
I came onto TikTok for a variety of reasons, but really what piqued my interest, and I don't know if TikTok's going to appreciate this, was the news about Tulsa and about what the TikTok community was able to effectuate, which was a radically new kind of activism that was both, memeish in its tongue-in-cheekedness, if you will, but also very effective and powerful. I mean, what an indictment that was on what was happening in the political climate, and how these young people were absolutely willing to leverage their power to make a statement in a hilarious but impactful way. I found that really fascinating and incredibly inspiring. That's really what caused me to look at TikTok very seriously.
Wow.
And then seeing that extrapolate through the BLM movement that sort of rocked our country once Ahmaud Arbery was killed and once George Floyd was killed. Again, watching young people make a statement on these incredibly difficult issues in a way that really drove directly into my heart. It was hard to ignore that. And ultimately, I wanted front row seats to that. I didn't want to be a bystander, catching little bits of it here and there on Instagram. I wanted to be on TikTok, where this sort of activism was taking root. That's why I joined TikTok. I really didn't join TikTok to make content. I joined TikTok because I wanted to watch people change the world. That's why I joined.
That's such an I don't know, an unorthodox, interesting way of getting into TikTok. I know. You're right. I mean, even to this day, we talk about all the time that the trends on TikTok, they are really represented to the forefront of just what Gen Z's thinking of, right? And it's crazy how fast paced it is. How let's talk about the crate challenge. I know this is super surface level, but that came up in a week. And that's already gone within a couple days. It's just the hyper communication of our generation through this app, and even I don't know other apps as well. I feel TikTok especially, just because we're getting so many different data points in a second, is insane.
I think that there has to be something in either the algorithm or the size of the community that fosters this kind of impact. Because I was thinking about this the other day. I did a video of, the trend that was going around where people are talking to their younger selves and kind of telling them where they've been, right? And that trend lasted for a week, right? I posted my video on TikTok and everybody immediately knew what it was, right? I posted it on YouTube. And nobody knows what's happening. They're like, oh, I saw somebody else do this. Are you copying that person? I'm like, no, it's a TikTok trend. But why is it that trends can catch so well on TikTok, but they just don't have the hook on other platforms. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, it may just be the size. Like our community on TikTok is still small enough where these echo chambers can reverberate in a very powerful way. Whereas in a community that's as large as, say, YouTube, it just gets lost, you know?
I think it's the power of the For You page. I think that's the main thing that no other app really has. Like, even with shorts on YouTube, it's like the same type of thing as TikTok, but it's really just a following page. It's not the For You page. I think that's the power is the For You page delivers these things that are working well for some people to everyone. And so then everyone gets along and we all unite around that thing together for like a week and then it's gone. And we do it again and again and again.
For sure. I mean, to put that even in more specific, like one strategy that Dylan and Milad use or like is like whenever they're collaborating, for example, they'll post the TikTok at the same exact time and tag each other. And like just the fact that the algorithm can notice that and layer that on people's For You page to the where people go, oh, I just saw Dylan's point of view here. And then I just saw Milad's point of view. Like it's so like that starts community. And I think even it's as simple as just the design of the apps too. When I'm like, I scroll on YouTube Shorts, maybe I did it for maybe 30 minutes the other day. Just the design of it didn't want me to click on the comment section. And that's what really drives the community, right? Like when I'm watching Dylan's or one of your, like even yours, TikTok, Joanne, what you put out is only 50% of what I consume. The other 50% are what the comments are telling me, what people under the sound are, right? It's actually a new concept that I'm studying right now. It's called like multiplayer media. And it's this idea that it's no longer one creator making one piece of content that goes out to a mass audience, but it's really like a mass creator, right? Like the amount of comments that are on each TikTok creating one piece of content that goes out to like a mass audience. So that's going really in the nitty gritty, but I think it's a movement for sure. This is what I study all day.
It's definitely a movement. There's, I studied lit theory, not to be confused with critical race theory, but very related. I studied lit theory in English, and there is this concept that there's no such thing as a static piece of literature. What I intend and the message that a writer intends to put out there really dies as soon as it gets out on the page because it really is informed by the reader and that reader's unique experience and how they interpret whatever message you design. And it's that constant back and forth between a universe of readers and the infinity inside the writer that creates this sort of, again, this incredible echo chamber that you cannot control. But in that is its beauty.
It's beauty, but it's also the downside, right? There's also a massive downside. I know one quote that really sticks with me is from The Social Dilemma, right? Which is that drama documentary on Netflix. And one thing they say is like, the most powerful people... No, actually, that's not from there. Naval Ravikant says this, that the most powerful people in the world are those that create the social media algorithms today. You know, and it's like you can start an echo chamber with any topic, and like there's goods and bads at that. But I feel like we can go down that rabbit hole so much. But Joanne, I wanted to ask you, right? You kind of hinted at this earlier with that when you first started TikTok, you wanted to make those cooking videos that were kind of chaotic and such. I'd say like when you started to shift into this, I want to call it like dual narrative storytelling.
I am the worst at accepting compliments. Maybe it's an Asian thing, a woman thing, or maybe it's both, or maybe it's just a Joanne thing. I always respond with, oh, no, that's not true, or you're being too nice, or I'm not all that great. Actually, I kind of suck. Why is it that we are all too quick to accept criticism, to even find things wrong with ourselves, but completely incapable of believing people when they see something good in us?
You're giving me an audio narrative and also a visual narrative. What was your strategy there, like when you first started? Because I can tell that you have some social media experience outside. You know how to get attention. But on TikTok, right, there was no precedent for this, right? How can you optimize your 60-second video?
Oh, well, I really had no strategy. Because I didn't know what I wanted at that time. Like, I think that, you know, when you talk to somebody like Dylan, who's been on TikTok for a while and as, you know, kind of knows the ins and outs, the value of talking to somebody like that, a veteran, if you will, to the extent that there can be, since it's still a fairly nascent platform. But the value in that is that creator has likely done the work to crystallize their objective. What is the why behind their TikTok, right? at the time when I was doing, I had no why. I had like no idea what I was doing. I barely knew how to use half the functions on TikTok. I still don't know how to use most of them. But
Same.
I mean, I just like didn't know what I wanted.
Yeah.
I just, was still caught up in the, oh my God, my video had 1 million views. I want to create another video
Yeah.
with 1 million views. I mean, that's all. I mean, it's so easy to get caught up in that because that's that endorphin rush that you get as soon as your video goes viral, and you don't have time to think about, well, what is the point of virality? Well,
Yeah.
why do I want to go viral? And so, when I first started incorporating stories, it was really just an extrapolation of the underlying vision that I had for my Instagram, which was, to share the stories of immigrants in the United States with the hope that people would find more compassion for that story.
That's okay. That's interesting. And that ended up being your why, right? And
That ended up being a facet of my why. In the
Gotcha.
past, 6 months, I've undertaken a lot of work to try and figure out what is the point of the Korean vegan. And I think it's much broader than simply compassion for the
sure.
immigrant story, but that is a big component of it.
Definitely. I know one thing too is like when I think of like how a lot of creators blow up per se, right, on social media, it's all started from like some sort of niche, right? And then it's how you can use that following you have and try to make it something bigger. You can see, I mean, some of the biggest social media creators today are doing the same, right? Jake Paul comes in mind, right? He's making all these Vine bits and these comedic bits, but now he's trying to, he's doing a lot more than that, right? With like the whole boxing culture, making a nonprofit called Boxing Bullies, being an investor, right? There's a lot that's happening there. I mean, Dylan, I think this question comes to you. Just want to explore it with you. Like, what is your why when it comes to
What is
creating
my why?
Yeah.
That's one thing that's really funny is a lot of people expect it to be some crazy answer, and it's usually just I just like to have fun. Like this is my ability to create and just like have fun. I enjoy the creative process. Like this is like someone gets to paint a picture, I get to make a loop in my TikTok. And like that gives me so much enjoyment, and then I get to share that with other people and then bring them enjoyment through that as well. And so it's just like these layers of just making it like fun and joy for other people, but then also giving them a break. Like you guys are discussing, like this past year has been like it's been tough for a lot of people. Like I mean 2020 was just like terrible all around. And so for me, it was more of like, let me give everyone like a break. Like, it's great. I love that TikTok was connecting all these people and like we were able to discuss all these big issues, but also like that's really exhausting. So let me just give you like a little commercial break where you can just breathe, calm down, look at ice cream. Everyone loves ice cream. And like we can all just have like a collective sigh together and then go back in like hard
Escapism.
on the next one.
Escapism.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And so that was kind of like my goal then. It kind of developed through all that is like, let me just have fun, but also like, let's just all relax because this is mentally exhausting for all of us.
What was that guy? We got stopped at the Cleveland fight, right? We were at the Jake Paul fight this weekend, and right as we were leaving, there was a fan of Milad's that like just kind of stopped us. And he said, well, I can't remember right now, but it was so impactful. Well, do you remember, Dylan, what the crux of what he was saying was?
What are you saying to Milad? He was just pretty much saying like seeing somebody, if I remember correctly, he was kind of like seeing somebody come from where Milad came from, like a guy that just worked for his parents and like worked hard, and like seeing what he's able to like accomplish just from working hard. He was just saying like that's really encouraging.
It was great. It was like so powerful, and like you can just like those comments really get to you. I just posted a TikTok basically saying like I'm lost right now, and I have both of you comment out there, and I said like why do people follow me, and just like 400 comments of people just saying like the nicest things back at me. It's like that really gives me the why as well. Kind of deep diving into the process of just like how you create, Joanne. I kind of want to put you two against each other here, right? Because I think you two are in like the opposite sides of the spectrum, right? Of activation energy and how to in creating a TikTok. I guess, Joanne, like, what are your thoughts on I'm sure you've seen Dylan create, and I guess like Dylan, what are your thoughts on how Joanne creates? Because you really are, Joanne. Like, how many hours do you put into a TikTok?
Several, probably like 6 or 7 hours into one TikTok. Yeah.
Dylan, do you even put 6 or 7 minutes into one TikTok?
Okay, chill. It just depends on the video, but I think, most of the time it's like under like 15 15 to 20 minutes, I'd say.
Yeah. I guess, is there a part of you, Joanne, that's like, I wish I was, like, I could reduce that activation energy or the energy I'm putting into TikTok in that? Or you, just like talk me through, like, especially when you first two met and you saw his process. I always like love, anytime Dylan and I go to someone and like you and Milad talk to people about like what it looks like, it's always just like a wow to people.
Well, for me, I think that watching Dylan work is a real testament to what he just described, which is I'm doing this for fun. This is my why. I'm trying to bring joy. And, you know, at the risk of making this whole podcast being a rah-rah Dylan podcast, I mean, one of the things that I think is so unique about Dylan is just who he is. You can tell. I mean, this is why people follow him. This is why I followed him. It's like, okay, well, I can't even eat this ice cream because it's not vegan. So it's like not applicable to me whatsoever. But I mean, like the reason I followed Dylan was because you can tell from what he's saying, the tone of voice that he's using, and all the effort that he does put into his videos, that he's a good person. And I'm sorry, but there is now a short supply of really trustable, reliable, genuinely, sincerely good people sometimes, I feel like, on the internet. And so that's, I think, very revealed in his content. And if you can do that in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, more power to you. I will confess, Tejas, that yes, I am very envious sometimes. I wish I could do that. Yeah, I wish I could do that. I wish I could, you know, punch out a video twice a day. That's just not feasible for me. I have definitely thought about, well, you know, if you would just be comfortable with doing a video on your phone or not doing a food video and just doing talking videos and incorporating those once a day, maybe you could do more and you'd have more followers. Because I know, like, I don't get as many followers because I put, you know, content out every other day, you know, or maybe sometimes only 2 or 3 times a week. But it's like, you know, something my husband has said to me, and he's an artist, and he's constantly been sort of my ability to like not get totally distracted, is that like the reason you get the kind of attention that you do is because of the kind of content that you put out. Period. So the minute you start compromising, you know, your content in order to put out more stuff, then the kind of attention you get is going to change, and you may not like that. And, you know, and I keep thinking about that. I have met some incredible people through my TikTok, like Dylan, like you, Tejas, like, you know, many people who are not on social media, but who are writers, who are thought leaders. And I don't know that I would have gotten their attention if I had been posting something else.
No, I love it. And I yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think one thing that's really interesting about this, though, is it's hard to compare two things when they're so different. Like, it's so easy for me to look at, like, say, Joanne's on the flip side and think, wow, like, her stuff is so fine-tuned, it's so beautiful. Like, maybe I should stop posting so many times. Maybe I should stop. And so it's, like, very easy. It's, like, that whole thing of, like, the grass is green on the other side type of thing. Because, like, when I look at Joanne's, I'm like, wow, this was so thoughtful. This was so impactful. And I just made a slushie talking about how it was blue. And I'm like, what did I do? And so it's, like, sometimes, and, like, I've definitely had my moments where I've made an impactful video and whatnot. But sometimes they are dumb and there's no point to them. And so like, it's definitely a back and forth of just figuring out like what you want, and then just being okay with the fact that like everyone's different, and that's like what's the beauty of life in general. And so if we all made the same type of content, then it just wouldn't be fun anymore, and it would just be boring. But I was about to say something. Oh yeah. But Joanne, you've kind of done some like creative twist on your content too to spice things up, like the auntie videos, which like took like TikTok by storm at like some point, you know, like that like impacted so many people.
They say that love is when 2 hearts beat as one. Bullshit. That's codependent relationship.
And that was you pretty much just sitting down, looking into a camera and just being like straight up like, let me give you some life advice, and it's gonna suck. It's gonna hurt to hear this, but I'm gonna tell you.
I think I was going through a creative rut at the time, and I was like, I want to do something a little different where I'm talking directly to my followers, because in my cooking videos, they're all voiceovers, and you don't really see me. You maybe see a little bit of my face once in a while, or you see my hands, obviously, but I'm never talking directly to the camera. It's very hard to cook like a full dish and like talk to the camera about something very serious. So I never do that, but I wanted to engage with TikTok. And that's the thing about TikTok. It's like TikTok, more than anywhere else, they're hungry for that kind of direct engagement. They want to be spoken to directly. You know, they want to get rid of the artifice. They want to get rid of the screen. You know, they want to be right there with you. And so that's what I wanted to create. And you know, as I think I've mentioned to Dylan in the past, I really was just thinking about my nephew. My nephew's 3 years old, and I really wanted to talk to everyone as if he were 13, 14, 17 years old and asking me for advice about, you know, my girlfriend just broke up with me, or this girl, I like her so much and she doesn't like me, or, you know, I think I need to come out and I don't know how. My parents are going to kill me. You know, like these are all things that maybe will happen someday. And my goodness, I love my nephew like more than any other human being in the face of the earth. And I just can't wait to have those conversations with him. So that's basically, but as Dylan mentioned, I do it in my own way, like, which is not like the like, oh, you know, I'm your auntie that's going to make everything feel better. Like, no, I'm the auntie that's going to tell you the way it is. You know?
Tough love.
Yeah.
I love that. And I just want to go back for a second. When I said, like, Dylan's only spending 15, 20 minutes, I'm not saying that, by the way. Like, you're not putting any less work than Joanne. Like, I really like how you said.
I don't take it that way.
Okay, cool.
I mean, he's posting like 10 times a day,
exactly,
I feel like. So,
right.
like,
And
yeah,
even
it all amounts to the same.
For sure. I really like how you summed that up, Dylan, with, like, the grass is always greener on the other side, right? Like, we Dental Digest, we look at it and we're like, dang, every single video he puts out is a banger, right? And then you look at someone else and you're like, wow, I wish I could just do that. But again, it's one of those things where there's positives and negatives of each. But I guess a question, Joanne, I have is like, how analytical are you when it comes to social media? What do you concentrate on?
I'm not analytical when it comes to social media.
I love it.
I not at least in any affirmative way. I can be if I want to be, but I noticed that it would have a direct and detrimental impact upon my mental health. So when I first started, you know, I think like getting, you know, to 600, 700,000 followers when I first started my TikTok, again, because I was so unprepared for the whole phenomenon, and I don't know that anybody could have prepared me, to be honest. I was like so hung up on the numbers and the views, and I was like, well, if I don't have 1,000 views within the first minute, that means this video is going to tank. You know, if you know, like, if, you know, I would literally graph out the trajectory of my likes and know within, you know, 3 hours if it doesn't have this, you know, blah blah blah, like all this stuff, you know, and I could tell when the, you know, the algorithm had been tweaked. I was like, oh no, the algorithm has been tweaked. Like, you know, like all that stuff, you know, and I, you know, what hashtags and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So I was very into that. And, you know, I think actually that was around the time that Dylan and I became much closer friends, was when I think I was like a little depressed actually. And I started seeing a therapist about it because I was so sad. And I felt like my worth was so tied to the views and the likes on my TikToks. And when they didn't get over 1 million views, then I was a failure. And I just like didn't know what to do about it. And, you know, I ultimately realized, like, again, I can only control my message and how that message is presented. If people don't like the message, or if there's some sort of constructive feedback that I can take from a lack of views or a lack of, you know, virality, then certainly that's something I will take into account. But at the end of the day, I cannot allow that to cloud my vision or the original objective of the Korean vegan. And that you just have to have faith in your brand. Like, you have to have faith in what you're creating.
100%. I know that's a little easier said than done though. You know,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that are like, no, the views just they don't affect me. They don't affect me. And I like to say the same, right? I'm just like, no, don't worry.
No,
Like,
they affect me. They totally affect
do,
me. Are
right?
you kidding me?
But so, what advice
yeah.
would you have? What advice would you have to someone maybe there's so many of us, right? If I don't get 10,000 views in an hour, I'm just like, oh crap, this TikTok's not going to do well.
Yeah,
And so what do I do
hear
at that
you.
moment?
I think that a couple of things. It's not fair for me to, I feel like, sometimes give advice on this, because it's like I've been so lucky in many ways, and like it's much easier for somebody like me who, you know, and I'm not bragging, I'm just factually stating, I have a lot of videos that have well over 1 million views.
Yep.
And so it's easy for me to say, you know, what goes up must come down, you know, where there's a will, there's a way, or, you know, whatever ridiculous aphorism you want to throw out there is, you know, you can say that. But, you know, again, there are a couple of things. Number one, practically speaking, if your videos are not hitting the way that you think that you would like, then maybe it is time to evaluate, well, okay, my message is not resonating.
Yep.
Why is it not resonating? Is it the presentation? Is it the message itself? Is it something else? Is there something that I can adjust? And that's why I started my anti videos, right? Because I was like, all right, maybe people need to see more of me. And that's a way to freshen things up. So that's practical advice.
Yeah.
And then broadly speaking, though, if you believe in your message, if you believe in your objective, then you have to have faith in that even when it's hard. It's easy to have faith when it's easy, but, you know, that's not really when faith gets tested.
I love that TikTok I just posted of saying, like, why do you follow me? There was a comment that I got, and it was off of a video that I think I privated because it didn't do well, right? Where I was telling people, I was like, hey, I'm actually not financially stable enough to move to like Los Angeles, so my trip here is actually sponsored by a company. And I remember that guy commented, he said, like, I followed you because of how transparent you are. Like, not many people would say that in front of a video. And like, it's one of those things, like, he took time out of his day to comment that on one of my things, and like, that TikTok didn't do well, and I privated it. But like, you know, a view is still a view. You never know who's viewing your stuff too,
totally.
right?
Exactly.
And you're totally right. It's like, my message at the end of the day is something I believed in, and I think I either unprivated it or I'm going to. So mark my
let
words.
let me just a couple of things, because I think this is so important, and I definitely want to spend some time talking about that post of yours. But number one, I have a friend, mostly my husband's friend, very dear friend of my husband, who is like a phenomenally talented R&B musician, also a classical musician. He is so talented.
Yeah.
And he you know, he doesn't know how to do social media, but he started posting some of his, and I can't speak this language because I don't know very much about R&B, but he started posting his music on Reels. Okay. He gets maybe like 1,000 views, 2,000, 4,000 views, but guess who's viewing him? Like the freaking, like, you know, DJ Jazzy Jeffs of the world are DMing him and asking to work with him, you know? So sometimes it's not really the number of the views. It's actually who counts in those views. That's way more important. Like, his career is about to completely change. The other thing is, personally speaking, you know, I have a book coming out in October. And because I'm very goal-oriented and I'm incredibly ambitious, I told my team, I was like, the goal here is to get on the New York Times bestseller list. We will do nothing if, you know, like, that is the my whole life right now is towards, you know, getting my book on the New York Times bestseller list. Everything else stops in the interim, right? Yeah. And, you know, it started to get me so stressed out because that is very hard to do. And it's also like, kind of like TikTok, you can post the best stuff and it doesn't matter. Like, the algorithm will screw you over. You know, you won't get views, right? It's the same thing with the New York Times. You could sell a bajillion books and for whatever reason, they're like, we don't like you, so you're not on the list, you know? So I was telling my friend about this, and he's like, you know what? That's not the list you should care about. You should care about the list of people who are going to look at their parents differently because of your video.
Yeah.
You need to care about the list of women who are going to look at their reflection differently because of a video they saw. That's the list that matters. And so Tejas, for you, when that one person says, I followed you because of your transparency, those are the people that you need to remember when you start getting down about your views.
For sure. Thank you. I want to get into the book, but I think this is a big question that just knowing out of your story that I need to ask as we're talking about your process. You are a partner at a law firm, and I can only imagine how demanding that job is. Like, how do you find time to create? Like, what does like your day look like?
Well, okay, so I'm going to be honest here and in all candor because I think the cat's going to be out of the bag soon.
Okay.
But I am withdrawing from partnership at the firm to be able to go, full-time as a content creator. This is a long time coming. And, I shared this with Dylan when he was over at my house because it was like literally I just made the decision at that time. So, honestly, like right now, my days are like 99% Korean vegan and 1% lawyer. I have a couple of remaining tasks that I need to address between now and my last day, which is September 30th. After that, I will be stepping down and be of counsel.
Okay.
So I'll still be a lawyer and I'll still be with the firm, but just not as a partner. It's just too much. I will say, like, in the beginning, when I was filming almost exclusively with my cell phone, like who's like, what's a telephone? With my cell phone, it was a lot easier to be a partner and a content creator. But now it's like, it's so hard, and I wouldn't be true to myself if I continued trying to straddle both worlds.
Yeah, that's wow.
One of the things
that a secret, huh? Go ahead.
Yeah, it was. One of the things that I think is so crazy about that is when we talked about it before, I was like, Joanne, do you realize like how big of a mic drop that is? You just said that I quit being a lawyer so I could be a content creator. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's such a just like, I'm out, like moment, like that's a power move. And you can't not appreciate how much courage that takes to do that. That's insane.
That's so cool that you say it's a power move, because I feel like most people will view it the other way, and I'm like really worried that people will be like, you're such a badass powerful lawyer and now look at you're giving it all up. Like, that's basically what my mom said.
That's what I'm saying though, but it's a power move. Like the fact that the world is telling you that this is the dumbest thing in your heart, that like this is the best thing I can do for myself right now,
you gotta embrace
and
it.
The fact that you're willing to do it and you're gonna prove them all wrong, in the best way, like it's gonna be so exciting to see.
Oh, that's really encouraging because it's terrifying.
So terrifying. How are you monetizing your audience? Curious.
So I mean, a lot of it is passive. I have a blog, and I have ads on my blog, so that's a little bit YouTube. I make passive income there. I make passive income, very little, on TikTok.
Yep.
And then, even Instagram is starting to monetize, income there. So it's like, little bits in there. I have like an Amazon affiliate account where like if anyone buys one of my pans, then I get like $5 a month or something.
Wow.
So like, I think between like that, like that's probably enough to pay like my rent, and then I have brand deals, and I don't do a lot, but I do like maybe once a month. I'm going to be working with Hoka, which is, my favorite shoe company for running, because I've got a marathon coming up, and so they're going to be sponsoring me for the marathon, and I'm really excited to work with them. I do a lot of speaking engagements. People want to hear me talk about anything, and then I've got a book deal. So like between all of that, like
just a couple things.
I feel pretty good. Like I feel okay. And you know what? Like I'm not like most people who take this leap. I mean, yes, it is terrifying, and sure, it takes a certain level of boldness, but I'm very lucky. I had a career of 17 years of being a lawyer at a large law firm, and I've got money set aside in case everything goes to shit and I need to start all over,
For sure. I always say this whenever I talk about people. I feel like you have 30 hours in a day while the rest of us have 24. Like, what is going on? You just listed all these things so nonchalantly. You're a marathon runner too. Like, just a marathon. Yeah, I got a shoe deal. Just running like, wow. It's impressive.
It's a lot. It is a lot. I will say, like, the marathon training is now really starting to make itself felt. Like, I think that's one of the reasons where I can't post every day. I just cannot. Like, at a certain point, my body just like gives up, and I need to take care of my body because I will cross that finish line. That will be the most embarrassing thing in the world if I don't cross that finish line. So
when's the race?
That's really like the race is actually 2 days before my book launch.
No way.
So, yeah, I know.
That's going to be coming off a real big high. And just we're going to keep building up. We're just going to keep going up.
Yeah, exactly. All the way through to Brooklyn. We're going to be just like totally, It's a little crazy. And I didn't exactly plan it this way, but I'm very happy that I'm training. It makes me always feel much better about myself. And you're right, like Dylan, the last time I ran a marathon, I was going through a very difficult time personally, in a matter related to my ex-husband. And I just remember thinking, like, if I could just get through this in the marathon, everything will be okay. And I remember I got through both, like, in relative succession with each other. And it was just, like, the most amazing feeling. It was very liberating.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Speechless. Absolutely speechless.
Y'all should run. Come run with me.
I'll do it. Dylan, you ready?
Maybe in a few years.
How many miles are you going to run today?
So today is actually a rest day, which is why I was able to do a lot of these things. Tomorrow I have to run 20 miles though, and I'm very scared.
Oh my gosh, 20. That's okay.
See.
Yeah.
Awesome.
High level question: if you could do anything, I would guess, like, even social media related or not, like anything different looking back, is there anything?
No.
Yeah.
No. I think that, like, people often ask me that, like, do you regret something? Do you know, and that's not to say that I haven't made my fair share of mistakes.
For sure.
And that's not to say that if I could speak to my younger self, I wouldn't have some strong words about things, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm happy with who I am today. And I'm happy with my current situation. Most importantly, I'm very happy that I found Anthony, my husband. I wouldn't trade our relationship for anything in the world. And I would worry that if I did anything differently, that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to fall in love with him and be with him. So that really is kind of my anchor, as in, no, I would not change anything because I wouldn't want to risk not having met Anthony.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right? It's like the butterfly effect. You can go back, change one thing. Like, you just don't know what the like, catastrophe can be. Love that. I guess, like, kind of going on to the third segment here, just like talking about your future. What is this book? I think I pre-ordered it, by the way. It's a cookbook, right?
Yes, it's a cookbook. Yeah. So I entered into the book deal long before I started a TikTok. I think it was before TikTok even existed. So it's been in the works for a really long time.
Was it before you started Instagram too, or any sort of?
No. I had like 37,000 followers on Instagram when I signed this book deal. So nobody thought that the Korean Vegan would be what it is when that book deal was entered into. And as a result of that, so much has changed kind of in regards to the messaging surrounding the book, as well as the contents of the book. I think that before, there was a thought that it would really just be lots of recipes. But as a result of TikTok and the popularity of my stories, I've been able to incorporate a lot more of my stories. And so that's been really great. It's basically just like my TikTok in a book.
I love that.
Basically what it is. It's just a bunch of beautiful recipes along with the stories about my family.
That's exactly what it should be, though, right? Like,
yeah.
I wouldn't want to buy anything else, Like, that's what I would hope and dream for when I'd open it up.
Yeah.
What is the timeline? Like, talk us through, like, how's the process been of writing a book, like working with the team to get that out?
Yeah, so the process was very difficult because I was a partner when and I still am. I still am a partner.
She's out of it. It's already mentally.
Yeah, I know. It's like I'm
creator.
like already there. Yeah, but I mean, I was a full-time lawyer when I wrote it, so it took me a very long time. But it was a beautiful process because it really encouraged me to tap into my family more and to understand our history in a way that I just took for granted. I like knew the vague sort of outlines of my father's service in Vietnam. I sort of understood that like there was some weirdness with my grandfather and my father, and but I didn't know any of those things until it was time for me to really dig deep into those stories for purposes of the book. I think in terms of working with my team, I didn't really have a team. It was just me. I took all the photographs. I did all the writing. I developed all the recipes. It's a one-man show, one-woman show. The book is really just me.
Yeah.
But the team at Penguin Random House, my publisher, I mean, they're amazing. They've been big Joanne fans for a long time.
Yeah, that's good.
But obviously, when they saw that the Korean vegan was sort of exploding, the team grew.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's been really great working with them.
That's awesome. What does the timeline look like in the future here for you?
So yeah, like right now, we're trying to get pre-orders like really amped up. We've got a lot already. We've got multiple thousands of people who've already ordered the book, which is really exciting.
So exciting.
And yeah, the book comes out on October 12th. And after I run my marathon, like I can't even think about anything before that. After I run my marathon, then I can like focus on the book.
And you got 2 days to focus.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
What?
I'll have like basically 36 hours to be like, oh, okay, now I have to do book. But yeah, so the book will be launched on October 12th in Chicago. I'll be visiting a bunch of independent bookstores to sign people's copies. And then I have a major book event that night. And then I fly to New York City the next day to do an event with Dylan and our friend John, which I'm like so wildly elated about.
Excited.
And then I head off to LA, possibly Boston, and some other cities along the way.
Whole tour.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's such like a chapter of your life, right? Like to get a book out. It's so cool.
It is. It really is a chapter of my life. And it's like such a blessing to be able to share it with, like my friends. And I mean, like when I wrote the book, I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to invite my friend Dylan to come with me to the book tour. I didn't even know he existed. But like that's sort of the kind of serendipity of life, It
really is. And I will say, like, I was just on another podcast and we were talking about how much the Paul brothers, like back in Cleveland, have done, right? Jake Paul is 24 years old. He's already been an actor. He's already been a musician. He's already been a social media sensation. He's already an angel investor. I feel like when you're a creator at this point, just life moves so much faster just because of the amount of leverage we all hold, right? It's just like having this audience, all the opportunities come to us. It's crazy. It really
I think so. But I think what I would say, Tejas, is also like you shouldn't feel bad if these opportunities are not like, banging down your door right now. Like, I mean, I think like, again, like for people like Dylan or, to a much lesser degree myself, it's like, we're operating in this space right now, but it ignores as you mentioned, I've been doing this since 2010 in some ways. You know what I mean? Like there are many, 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 many years where nobody paid attention to me at all. Yeah. And so like, just because right now you're going through that growth time or that self-introspection time, whether you're 20 years old or whether you're 40 years old, you shouldn't feel like you're wasting your time or that you're like not good enough or like that, you need to change, what you're doing, it's okay. It's okay to be stuck in that time.
I love that. Comparison is the thief of joy at the end of the day, right?
Oh my God, totally. I hate that, but I'm like the worst at that. I compare all the time. I'm horrible. I'm so bad at it.
So after the book, right, is there any project? I mean, I know you said like right now is marathon you're focusing on, and then 36 hours later is this book, this tour. Is there any just like aspiring goals that you have like that are just so much bigger than yourselves as being a creator that you'd like to see?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, my hero is Rich Roll. He's I Am Rich Roll here on TikTok. Cool. He just started, and I actually think both of you would adore him. Yeah. But he's like my hero. He's why we went vegan.
Cool.
And I had the absolute thrill and honor of my life to be a guest on his podcast a couple of months ago. And that's why I ultimately decided to quit my job. He was a big time lawyer as well. And he quit his job when his book came out. And now he's like this like mega successful, incredible author / content creator / podcaster. And like when I see the impact that he's had, having felt it firsthand, like how radically he's changed my life, like that's the kind of impact that I want to have. I want to do what he's doing in a Joanne sort of way. And ultimately what I'm trying to do, in the same way that Dylan has done very carefully, is surround myself with people who not only inspire me, but equip me with the tools to create that kind of impact in a way that's efficient, in a way that's ethical, and in a way that's really sincere. So that's really what I'm trying to do right now. And it is hard. I mean, it is really hard to find people that you can trust who understand your vision and will really execute it in the way that you want.
I'm learning that every day, 100%.
Yeah.
I had a TikTok out saying like 50% of my connections in LA are shady and the other 50% I have no idea yet. Right?
Yeah.
Do you have a tip on finding a good team, finding a good person to partner? Like honestly put so much trust into?
So I think part of it is finding people like you and Dylan. I mean, I think that is like a huge part of it because like creators understand creators, you know, and there's that implicit level of trust that kind of goes along with that. Now, I'm not saying that all creators are created equal. Oh my God, I'm using that word so many times, but you know what I mean? Like,
welcome to the podcast.
Yeah. So like, I think that first of all, engage with your fellow creators because you never know what sort of opportunities can arise simply as a result of relating to one another and being honest with one another. And I definitely believe that. I think in terms of just stepping, you know, a tier above that, like let's say you're, you know, engaging on a lateral level and now you want to engage at a different level, right? Yeah. Whether it's finding an agent or a manager or, you know, working with producers or things like that. I think number one, you have to be very clear about your vision to everybody, like repeatedly. You know, like, hey, this is what I want. This is what the Korean vegan is about. This is what, you know, DJ Lemay is about. This is what Tejas is about. And I'm not going to compromise on that. Be willing to listen, of course, and consider ideas. But you have to do that work first to understand what that vision is. Because if it's at all like not rock solid, then people will take advantage of you immediately. So you got to communicate that. And then once you do that, it becomes easier for you to identify people who, for whatever reason, are not going to be able to execute on that vision, won't share a consistent vision, or is, quite frankly, trying to exploit that vision.
A lot. Define that vision early and communicate it. So go ahead, Dylan.
I was gonna say, I think that's a really good point, though. Like we said earlier, you asked what is the percentage of our friends that are from like online, and we said like all of us pretty much agreed it's like 90% at this point, and that's from doing what, like you said at the first point of yours, was just like engaging with other creators and talking to them, and like you can get a picture of someone through their content, and then you can see them outside of it, and you can kind of piece those together and see like how genuine all that is, and like that's just a lot you can learn from people right there, and then you build those connections, and you just make some of the best friends you have, and then they have connections, then you meet other people that you can trust from them. So it's yeah.
That's it.
I think that's totally true. Like I'm like with my friends, I will tell you like, to stay away from these people, like, oh, you know, this is the agent that you should work with, or like, you know, these are, you know, like, because I want to be protective of my friends.
This was a fast hour. I feel like I learned so much. Just like, I love how confident, articulate you are too, just like what you're doing. You know, it's really inspiring as someone who is, I'd say I'm pretty confident too, but just like not very articulate.
Okay, well, first of all, let me just, because I wanted to spend a little bit of time on this because you know, my husband and I were looking through your TikTok account the other day, and I was like, you know, this young man is so smart, so handsome, so funny, and such a good person. He has all the tools necessary to succeed. But I do think that, like, what needs to sharpen is the message. Like, that's the thing is like, what is your point? And I feel like I understand this whole like creator economy and your contributions to that. And I think that's important, but I think you're so much more than that. I think you're so much more than that. You have so much charisma. And I feel like you need to really employ that in a way to get much more important messages amplified. And I feel like you're there, but just do the work to figure out what that message is.
No, I totally agree. We usually have this segment which kind of run out of time where I ask people to roast our brand, or roast our content. You basically just did, and I'm glad. But it really hit me when there was another creator, and he was able to just roast Jack's content really fast. Like, oh, there's this. Is like, Tejas, I need to think about your stuff a little bit more. And I actually took that as a roast because it's like he couldn't understand my message at first glance, and I think that's really important. That's interesting you say that. Like, I think that I could do more, but it really, like, there is a surface level, but like my new bio, and not saying that this is my message. I have no idea what my message is quite yet, but I really want to be the most valuable asset to creators. And I think there's a level of like, oh, like there is something more, but to me, it's like, I think about at the end of the day, like what is like something that like what drives me right now? It's like helping assist Dylan build this ice cream shop because it's so much bigger than himself. And that's what I mean, right? It's like this guy who worked at Cold Stone for the last 10 years to build, who knows, this huge ice cream venture. And like we're dreaming and making this dream a reality. That's so interesting to me. And like what you're doing, Joanne, it's like you're a partner at a law firm, and like you love Korean food, and you're reinventing it, and you're making it so much bigger than yourself. That to me is like one of the most exciting things I could see. There's no precedent to what is happening today, right? One of my I really realize this when people don't ask me like, oh, you're only 20. Like why? Like when I consult people, it's like, why would I listen to you? It's like, because right now there's no precedent, right? No, there is not. And I think that's really exciting. But I really appreciate that. I honestly do. I'm going to take a little break from TikTok right now just to kind of understand what message I want to put out. And
that's the other thing is like, you don't have to be a TikTok star.
Yeah.
Like you can be completely successful and a complete badass without having it demonstrated on social media. Like, in fact, some of the scariest badasses out there don't have an Instagram or a Facebook, and I think you can have a completely fulfilling, more than a fulfilling career without, participating in that attention economy. You don't need attention sometimes, and I think that's incredibly important to remember.
I love that.
Yeah, me and Milad had a really good conversation yesterday where I was thinking through all these things and they finally came together in that conversation, when you're with your friend, you're like, wait, this all makes sense now. And because for me and Milad, we have very similar content. I started filming POV at work, and that's what got us here. But like, what's that next thing that we like move on to? And we've been really like kind of beating ourselves up because like, oh, if views are down, we're like, oh, it's because people are bored, they're over it, we've been doing it for a year, like what do we do now? And so we've just been trying to figure that out. And then yesterday I just was talking to him, and it was as I was brainstorming for the ice cream place, and I was like, dude, you don't realize it, but like we're doing something bigger. Like we're so focused in on content because that's what we've been like used to, but in reality we have already moved on to that next thing, and it's outside of the realm of content, and that's going to end up flowing back into our content and growing our content. But in reality, we have to look at the bigger picture. We're so microscopic on our content. We're missing all of the amazing things that we're creating around us, and like not realizing that we have moved on to that next thing. Like we can be proud of that, and we can be happy that even if our views are down, we're still being crazy out in the world, creating businesses and doing all this insane stuff, writing books, like we're doing it. We've moved on.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, Dylan's going to be the king of ice cream soon.
All right, John, where can people find you?
They can find me at The Korean Vegan everywhere.
I love it. Dylan, where can people find you? You're your special guest here.
It's DJ Lemay too, everywhere. Or on YouTube, it's Dylan Lemay.
Joanne, this has been an honor to be able to talk to you. This was awesome. I'm so excited. Good luck on the marathon. Good luck 36 hours after. I can't wait for the cookbook. I don't know how to cook personally, so I'm going to use this as a stepping stone. How complicated are the recipes?
Actually, each recipe has a easy, medium, or practice makes perfect.
That's awesome.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah, you can look for just the easy ones. And also, hopefully, you can come to New York when Dylan and I are there. That would be really fun.
100%. Dylan? Is that okay with you?
I guess so. You practically live with me at this point.
Exactly. So awesome. Well, everyone, make sure to like and subscribe to the podcast. Thank you, Joanne, again. This was amazing. Comment below who you want to see. Thank you, Dylan, for co-hosting this with me. It's fun.
Thank you. It was fun. Sorry, Jack. Hope you heal up.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Adios.